Recording.
Yes, we did it.
I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you. You know, the pink is pretty new, and by new I mean probably like 2 years. But prior to this,
Whoa.
it used to like change colors probably every 3 months. So I've been
You
firm on the pink.
wait, so you've had this pink hair for 2 years.
Yeah, changing it out, but like yes, this is like the look I've been rocking with the last two
Oh,
years.
that's awesome. How does it happen? Like, how does it start?
Yes, so these are extensions, first of all, which is great because then I can like actually change out the colors often as I want. But I do my hair myself. To get to this style was something gradual over time. Like it was one style back in like 2014, then I tweaked this and I tweaked that, and like I shaved this out of my head in 2015 and just tweaked, started doing the jewelry probably like a year and a
Oh,
half
whoa,
ago.
there's jewelry as well.
Oh, there's a lot of
Awesome.
layers to this hair.
That's awesome. My friend grew a dreadlock as well. But she was having like she had it a bit more rough, if you
Yeah.
will, because she's white. So she doesn't have like the apparently the not the same hair kind of texture
Yeah.
as yeah. So she was really proud when she got like two dreadlocks like hiding in her back hair.
That's an
Um
accomplishment for sure, because it's not easy to pull off dreadlocks for sure and like
oh
grow them.
yeah, she was like kneading it as well. Like she was like she had these tools that she was like poking around with all the time. How do you wash it? Do you use dry shampoo, the one you can spray
I just
over?
use regular shampoo, just normal shampoo. So this thing, when it's not in this contraption, if I take it out, it can like sit down, but I get it out of all of its little entanglements and just
Oh,
wash it like you would regular hair. It takes probably like 3 hours to dry. So like
oh my
the whole
gosh.
hair thing is like a day dedicated to it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to wash my hair out more often as well.
Yeah, I don't, I know it depends on the person and like the texture of the hair, but the frequency of washing, I feel like it depends.
How often do you shower?
Shower, that's a whole different thing,
Oh,
especially
so you sometimes just wash your hair and not shower as well? Is it
no,
like a separate thing?
sometimes I'll shower and I won't wash my hair. So I don't have
Oh,
to I'm lucky that I don't have to wash my hair as often. I probably wash my hair once every 2 weeks because that's just black hair, and like with these Marley twists. Yeah. So yeah, it's good.
oh, okay. So what about shower?
Oh, shower. I'm back to daily. I was
Uh,
skipping days in the beginning of quarantine, but I got myself back to the daily shower. Make me
oh
feel a
man,
lot
I
better.
need to like really amp up my shower game because
Wait, yeah, no, then I have to ask you a question. How long have you gone without showering?
I
Like,
was gonna
no.
ask I was gonna ask you the same thing. I was literally gonna ask you the same thing. What was the record? For me, it was not gonna lie, it was like 1.5 weeks, almost borderline 2 weeks.
That's impressive. That's
Yeah.
really
Like once I got to like day 10, I was like, I could take a shower, but I'm gonna try to elongate this record and like turn it into a record, you know?
oh, that's actually amazing.
I got
I
really
think
dedicated.
no, that's good. I think mine was like 3, 4 days. So you
Oh,
got me beat by a whole
yeah,
week.
yeah. I mean, that's I think that's way better. I don't think there's anything to boast about having a record of not showering for 10 days.
No, you
Just
have I feel like one time in your life, you just have to have that, like,
you just
how
gotta
many
do
days
it.
yeah, you have to have that record that you can say, so it's good.
Yeah. I remember, have you watched Gone Girl, the movie?
Is that the Ben Affleck movie? Yeah, I watched
Yeah,
it a while
that
ago.
one, where she, like, completely lets go of herself, and she just, like, binges on, like, tweezers all the time. Like,
Yeah.
that's my dream. That's my dream.
Well, it's
Just
funny, I always think about, like, a post-apocalyptic time, like, what character would I be? And, talk about, like, not showering, that's gonna be a whole different world, but in a post-apocalyptic era, I would be the person that, like, negotiates terms, probably try to get us into, like, a bunker where there's only a few people living there. I'm that person that can kinda make deals as we go.
I think you'll be perfect for the character. I mean, like, just as you are right now, I can see you in Cyberpunk. Like, I can see you. Have you played the game?
I have not, but that would like be a dream to like
Me
live.
neither, but I've seen like gameplays of it. I'm just not a big gamer. Like I'm not good at gaming. So I don't even like try to be better, but I love watching gameplay videos and Cyberpunk. I love all things like dystopian and like post-apocalyptic like aesthetic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can see you being a character in that game or in that kind of setting.
That's a huge compliment to my heart because I
Really?
like that same thing. Yeah, for context, like for example, I'm a massive Game of Thrones fan. Not the same thing, but in general, I like this idea of just like another world where I can like embrace this like darker character. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's the normal society can be a bit bland at times. That's why I love like anime because like there are so many character archetypes and different types of people dressing differently, but in reality it's just not the same, you know.
You know what show I just started? I'm mad at myself because it's been on my list forever. I finally started Avatar. Finally.
Oh, the Airbender
Yeah.
one.
I'm like season 3. I think there's like 4 seasons, but it's a really good show, really tight show. So finally getting through that. I'm very excited.
That I've never watched it either. Like, but it's one of those things I've heard so many people talk about like this is going to enlighten you almost.
Yeah.
Um but I have not watched it either. I should. I really should.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, today I kind of want to touch upon like different uh just little bits of I know we talk a lot about social media, and I just kind of want to discuss a few things about different platforms and your thoughts about it, and your pick on your brain and get some insights about how different platforms work. I know you are mostly on Instagram, right?
In terms of having that real active voice, yes. I am on, theoretically on all platforms, but definitely Instagram is sort of my baby, my go-to resume, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so what are some of the things, I know you talk about loads of different things,
Oh
but
yeah.
are there any like specific elements or uh, aspects or elements that you kind of touch upon the most when talking about these things?
I think, and this is not a quote that I made up by any means, but one of my favorite quotes in regard to this is social media is not about technology, it's about psychology. And that is the thing that made me fall in love with social media. For context, I was a film major when I was coming up. So,
Nice.
social media wasn't anything that you can major in. So everything I know about today and the expert I've sort of become today has been self-taught, me really throwing spaghetti at the wall, getting knee deep, not only with my own socials, but I've worked with creators for a big chunk of my career. And a big part of that for me is loving the idea of personal branding and having a personal narrative. And I really tinkered with this idea of like, can someone have the microphone who isn't your traditional celebrity, politician, journalist? And YouTube was just coming out
Mm.
when I was in college, and so I really fell in love with that idea very early, especially for someone like me who used to get picked on for liking Pokemon and Digimon and wearing fingerless gloves. And like, it's cool to be different now, but when I was growing up, it wasn't cool to be different. So social media really did give misfits like me a voice. Yeah, it really led the charts with that, so to speak.
So you are kind of more pro social media than con.
I am pro social media because I believe in its power. However, I'm not naive to the negative sides of it. I think one thing about me is I have the ability to compartmentalize in my brain to say that this exists, but this also exists, and both are truths and reality. So yeah, I mean, social media definitely has a lot of negative sides to it. I used to tell people like, if social media is the drug, I'm probably the drug dealer. So it's like not a great drug, but
I mean, it is in a way a drug, you know. I recently watched a film called, oh man, I forgot the name of the film. It's a documentary. Um
social dilemma.
yes, yes, that's it.
Fantastic doc.
It's a creepy one because you kind of you watch it and you literally witness the all the kind of debilitating effects of social media that has on you and your mental health and just society in general, but yet you can't stop.
Yeah.
Still, you're still
Yeah.
on social media, you still do these things. One of the things I remember the most in that documentary was the quote somebody said, is that social media and drugs are the only industry that uses that calls the people on the platform or people who are using it as users.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like almost the same as drugs. It there is definitely something that's very addictive to it, and
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder what it is though. Like I
It's
don't
like
know what
the
I'm addicted to.
manipulation. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I did a video. First of all, I love that quote. I that like stood out to me too. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like dark and like
Yeah.
true. I did a video about dating apps and why dating apps suck. And the purpose of the video was to explain to people that there literally is a system in place that it's an intermittent reward system that says, if I do this, I could get lucky. It's the same thing in like a lotto or like gambling, where it's like, okay, if I play this lotto machine, I could get lucky. So it's this idea of, you swipe because you hope to feel that rush of getting a match. It's the same idea of a casino of like winning, even though you don't
Mm,
really care about the money, you want to win. You don't really care if your match is probably perfect for you. You just want to feel that rush of getting matches. And I think obviously the same could be attributed to social media in general, is that, just that rush of the possibility of this picture getting 50 likes or 100 likes. Like, we're gonna, there's something within us that's compelled to bet that and hope we get above that. And like, I don't know, it's addicting. It's very interesting. Very
yeah.
interesting.
And I
Yeah.
wonder if that addictive quality of social media was something that was always inherent within the platform or something it just kind of developed over the years. Because when Facebook first came around, which is, kind of one of the most one of the first kind of social medias that ever came out, I remember it being a very pure thing, it was all about there was no competition for likes or hearts. It was just all about social. It was all about being social. And, we used to play like weird like cow farm games, and we used to like share our scores that we got on games, and it was just posting silly photos and, just talking endlessly on comments. And I wonder when it was that all changed and became
Yeah.
something that, influencers came around and, you know,
Yeah.
it's just become something that's different.
It's
Um,
interesting because I forgot who said this. It could have been an old colleague. Someone in my life referenced this. I thought it was brilliant. But the internet used to be a place for nerds to hang out and do whatever they wanted. And then it was this idea of, then the cool kids came on the platform. Then the jocks and the cheerleaders got on the platform. It's kind of that idea of like taking something pure and making it this like commercial thing. And I think with social media, there's a lot of manipulation that goes into it. However you want to slice and dice that, whether people are using filters or
mm,
however you want to do that. I think what people fail to realize, it's not a bad thing, but what people have to realize is like that manipulation has been around as long as time. Movies, posters, anything you see, it's all manipulation. The difference is we know we're watching a movie. We know when a character is the character. And
right.
when you take that same concept of narrative manipulation and apply it to real life, that gets very muddy and very dangerous. And the perception of that can really mess with your head. So that's where I think the lines really get blurred, between those few things. Yeah.
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 That's so true. It's like I feel like social media is the only kind of fictional side of the internet that we truly like buy into.
Yeah.
Even though we do kind of subconsciously know that it's like most of it is all like, you know, very much like kind of scripted and
Yeah.
timed and like kind of planned out very meticulously in advance. And yet
Yeah.
we still choose to believe in it and
Yeah.
let it affect us. I re-
Yeah.
I I saw an article recently that I think a little boy, like maybe 14, 13-year-old boy, got shot because he decided to prank his neighbors uh, with it was a robbery prank, and he decided to like fake rob somebody in his neighborhood, and the neighbor got so scared and really like thought it was a real robbery that he in self-defense shot the boy.
Mhm.
And the reason why that boy schemed this whole thing in the first of all, it was because he was so used to seeing all these like video contents of pranksters on YouTube. like fake pranking, but it was like staged as if everybody was knew that it was all a prank, obviously. But to some of the viewers who were watching these contents, some of them may think that it's a real thing and it's okay to do these horrible pranks.
Right. A
Um
100%. I think that, and that is the scary part, especially, you're talking about minds that are still developing, watching something and seeing it be okay. And that's where, you can even bring the media into this to that degree. And, even when I was speaking about some of these tropes we're seeing with social media, we have seen it, in the movie business or whatever. But unfortunately, that is the unfortunate side of Twitter, this idea that people really only go trending when it's something bad. If you think about it, when you go on Twitter and you see someone's name, if they're trending by a lot, it's generally because they've done something bad. And so what does that tell people about, in any medium you're in, whether you're a musician, actor, social media influencer, that the more extreme, the more you pushing those boundaries, the better. And that, that narrative, just from a societal standpoint, is really dangerous when you start, especially talking about kids.
yeah. And also
Yeah.
there's that element of getting used to it, and the threshold goes up and up and up and up, you get
It's so
used. It's so crazy how accustomed you can get watching these crazy things,
yeah.
and you get kind of immune to these shocking elements. And
It's
so
true.
the creators, what do? They want to get more viewers and get more traction, so they kind of up and up and up the level of extreme
Yeah.
activities and actions, and it
And I know I
becomes.
don't look it because of my piercings and my pink hair, but I'm turning 31 in May. So I lived a life before the internet, and I so I can say, like, yeah, seeing that progression of that extremity really getting pushed, and the threshold and the tolerance for stuff in general. It's crazy to watch and see for sure.
Oh yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Like I've lived pre-internet as well, and do you miss it? Do you think
I'm
you could go
so
back?
happy. Gosh, yes, when it comes to interpersonal relationships, twofold. It's awesome because, like, we get to meet people like each other, from around the world. And I have met people in person who I've met online. It would be so nice to just be in such a simple time where it's like, if I want to meet up with someone, I gotta go meet them at the ice cream shop on the corner. Like,
Yeah.
but to bring that simplicity back into life today, I miss that part so much. More than anything, though, I would say I'm glad I lived that life. I can't imagine being a kid literally not knowing what time was like without just even an iPhone, not even a cell phone, but just an iPhone. So I'm
Mm.
happy to know what life is like outside of that. I think it keeps me very level headed as I do my job now, and just working with all the different types of people I work with, really having that strong sense of self, because I lived the whole life being Brooke before so yeah, I missed that part for sure. What
I
about you?
think I really miss it too. And
Yeah.
the thing about it is, though, I don't know, maybe it's because this whole internet thing, this whole social media thing kind of all like had a boom when I was growing up as a teen. And so I was still very malleable, and social media coming into my life at that point in life, it just became extra ingrained in my kind of existence more so than for you. But for me is like you said, having lived that pre-internet life keeps you grounded, even being on all these social media platforms nowadays. But for me, it's almost like I miss it, but I don't even um it's become such a big part of my life that I can't seem to resonate with the past me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, to your point, like, if I could, I wouldn't go back, because like I said, it gave misfits like myself a microphone. I'm blessed to have this microphone. I never sought out to be an influencer. That's not the name of the game for me. I have a corporate job.
Mm,
I really do thrive in education and taking complex ideas and just making it easily digestible for anybody about the things I'm particularly passionate about. And that matters to me. That does something to me. That fuels me as a person. And without that, I don't even know that I would be the Brooke of today. And yeah, I agree. It's very much who I am today. Obviously, it's my career, but
I really kind of am jealous of my mom generation sometimes, like, you know, the 70s, 60s, who were people who were going through their, you know, their 20s, 30s in 70s, uh,
Yeah.
when, you know, they had these like brick phones. And maybe I'm just like having this fantasy from watching all these movies,
No,
but
it's true. I do get sad thinking, like, am I really ever gonna have a Woodstock experience? And I don't mean Woodstock just because it's like I want to party. Like, I've never been to Coachella. I can care less about that. It's like, but just this collective experience with people who genuinely are there because there's no screens and nothing to
mm,
place them anywhere else. Like the level of awareness and intent, and intent being present in that kind of a space, like, God, will we ever be able to experience that? Because that's magical in my mind.
that's true. And also it's not just a solo thing either. That requires a cooperative uh action
Yeah.
in it within a group of people. It's not just up to you to make a decision to, okay, I'm going to be off all social media and all social devices and technology, and I'm going to just live this hermit, no screen life. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you're instantly going to be in Friends or, you know,
Right.
this kind of
Yeah.
70s show, because that requires your friends' cooperation, your family's cooperation, and all these people around you to live that same lifestyle. And that's,
Yeah.
you know, not an
A
easy
collective
thing.
experience, and it takes multiple people to do that. And it's interesting, we were talking, I was thinking, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I've been hearing there are more like technology rehabilitation centers where, we're all addicted to our cell phones, and it's a struggle for people to where they'll literally check themselves in somewhere where they'll live without a cell phone for like a week, and it's like a detoxation. That's an insane money making thing that's probably going to be very prevalent in 5 years from now, which is
Oh my
sad
gosh.
that it gets to that. But crazy, it's just crazy how the world works.
Oh man, it's like a phone rehab then.
Literally, they're
That
starting
is
to put it up.
weird.
I know. That's crazy.
Is that in America?
I think it's in America. It sounds like some LA thing some actors would probably do. It has to be like in that kind of society right now, but I'm sure it'll get to a place where it's like anybody can
Global
call it.
thing.
Yeah, a global thing for sure.
That's bizarre, but I can definitely see that coming. I can definitely see that becoming a thing, you know, like rehab
It's
for
crazy.
drugs. That's weird. Do you ever have you ever felt like any part of social media, any sort of platforms kind of debilitate your mental health? And, you know, if so, if there are any kind of precautions that you take to make sure that doesn't happen as much?
I am a rare enigma in this case. I think I'm able to really tune it out. I don't know
Mm,
why. I'm just that way. But I think for me, I was talking to my friend about this the other day. I have the luxury to not, because I am so different in how I look and how I am. I have the luxury to not be in this place to be compared by other people. So it's like growing up, I was very much a tomboy. So I never felt like I had to compare myself to the girls and be the prettiest and wear the prettiest dresses. And I never had to
mm.
play that game because that was never who I was. Then, I do identify more gender fluid. And it's like I was also not a boy. So I didn't have to feel like I had to play the boys' game. So I never was in this place in my brain of comparing myself to other people because I was never comparable to anybody ever, which I think as an adult really helped me because I think it helped my confidence, obviously, but I don't think that social media affects me in that kind of way because I'm not one of those girls that looks at this one Instagram model whose body's really in being like, oh, I wish my body looked like that, because that's just not who I am. So I'm lucky to not be affected by social media yet in that kind of a way. I say yet because I never say never because you never know. But
That's really interesting though, that, you know, do you think you were always kind of um this self-confident person? I wouldn't say like, you know, of course not egotistical
sure.
in any sense, but quite sure, you know, who you are, and had
Yeah.
this identity that's quite clear and, you know, not compromised by anything else.
Yeah, I've always been that way. I think, obviously I definitely have insecurities. I think for me, I've always been a person who's been curious about oneself. So I'm someone, for example, I love self-improvement. I love pushing myself, like learning more, not just being the very best version of myself, and understanding that things are temporary and that I get excited thinking about the Brooke I'm going to be 5 years from now, like a year from now, knowing that I myself am ever changing. And just my parents too definitely attributed to that in terms of just like they never made me feel like any dream was unachievable. They always, it really was like dare to dream. They really are free in that way. My mom's very introspective, always looking for deeper meaning. My dad's very free spirited. The worst thing that can happen in life is that you have to try again. And so I've never been afraid. Like, a lot of people are crippled by fear, and I certainly have fear in a lot of aspects of my life, but I've never been afraid to just live. And so yeah, I'm definitely just comfortable with myself. Like, I definitely have my insecurities for sure, but I'm comfortable for sure. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because, you know, maybe it is a big part of it has to do with parenting. And,
I think so.
I love my parents but to bits, but I wouldn't say my upbringing was the smoothest in terms of, them educating me, but also, their marriage and their kind of family life as well. So I think that kind of contributed me having quite a lot of insecurities growing up and still do kind of on a certain extent. Um, but hearing from you that's really motivating actually. The fact that you're always excited about changing and you're excited about who you're going to be in 5 years.
Like,
Because
like one of my, like, the things that my brain always comes back to is like when I'm 80 years old, looking back at the brook the brook of my life. You like that pun? That was a fun pun for everybody. But looking back at the book of my life, I like life experiences are everything to me. For example, I was married. I've been married and divorced. Like, it was completely amicable divorce, but it's like that's a beautiful chapter in my life that, yeah, it ended in a divorce, but like it happened. And that's exciting. Yeah, I got bullied when I was in middle school. That happened, and I wouldn't have been the Brooke I am today. Like, it's all interconnected while also like operating in silos. And more than anything, I just want to be able to look back on the book of my life and like smile and cry. Like, I want to do both. I'm not afraid of pain. I think it's a part. I think it's a beautiful part of life.
mm, yeah, that's so true. And it makes sense. It makes sense in words. But when you're going through the tough period, when you are actually going through those periods, it's really hard to remind that to yourself. When you're going through shit times, you just, oh man, this is definitely going to be a good story when I look back. But
Yeah.
man, this is tough. This is rough right
Right.
now.
I just went through I went through the hardest time in my life this last year. Obviously 2020 ripped us all a new one, and I'm no exception, but like
Yeah.
I was at the lowest emotionally I probably have ever been ever in my life. I've never made it that low, just internally, just emotionally. And I was there. I was there.
And
Yeah.
you got
That was,
through
that
it.
was for
Do you
me.
think you got through it or is it?
I'm getting through it. I'm For the first time I see the light at the end of the tunnel, not in a morbid sense, but literally just of like I see the glimpse of Brooke that can be of tomorrow. Like, I really got stuck in who I was that day.
Yeah.
And to your point about, when people go through things, you're right. It is easier said than done. I think the thing that brings me comfort in those times is reminding myself that everything is temporary, and it only takes a day for everything to change. It takes a day for the just as easily as it takes for everything to go to crap in a day. The same can be said about good things. It takes one day, and the sun shines on you, and it maybe shines on you tomorrow. And then maybe it's cloudy the next day, but that's okay because the sun will come out next week. Like, the thought that everything is temporary gets me through those tough times, even when I don't see it for myself, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time solves everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean,
Thank you.
not what I said.
No,
You
no,
said.
listen, this whole conversation is beautiful. No.
Yeah. That's great. I look up to people like you who are quite self-confident and can say these kind of things to oneself when you're going through rough times because there is a thing for me where I I think I'm quite a good advisor. When my friends are going through a rough period, I can be that friend who says the right things for them. And I want to say the right things for them. And I do many
Yeah,
times. But for some reason, when I'm going through shit period,
yeah.
I can't seem to do the same thing for myself. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like I have a different dynamic when it comes to a dialogue between me and my friends versus me and myself. And there's that weird dissonance between like, I really want to be that friend that I am for my friends, for myself, but I'm not. And, I'm still trying to figure out. So, it's really motivational for me to be talking to people like you who seem to have a little bit of that figured out.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. So would you like, what do you think you're hard on yourself? First of all, I'll ask that.
I
Like, do
think
you
I
think,
am.
yeah, yeah,
It's something that I'm practicing to be kinder to myself, but I think objectively looking at things, I think I'm pretty hard
yeah.
on
Like,
myself.
well, my question is what are, I always, the way I sort of think about people is like, we all have these little thorns, right? And those little triggers where something or a situation or a person might brush up against our thorn and it hurts. And it's like, ooh, that's a trigger point for me. Like for me, oftentimes I really hate disappointing people. Like that's something
Mm,
I had to come so far to find the way to be direct with people, like, and I'm sure you sense that in how I talk. Like I had to really get to this place within myself to be okay to be direct with people, but it's not a bad thing. I'm not giving any, it's just, you can say something direct and have it, do it with finesse and have it land. Because I really hated disappointing people and I was a people pleaser because of that, but I had to find the balance in that, and finding the balance in that, I was able to find some kind of inner peace with that. I say that to say, like, do you know, are there any things that stand out to you in terms of like what may strike chords with you in those moments? Is it that you may be perfectionist or you don't want to disappoint people? I know that's a loaded question, but
no, no, no. I think both. First of all, disappointing people and being a perfectionist. I don't want to be a perfectionist, and I don't want to be always be living for other people's sake. Um, I sometimes want to take a break. I want to just be my own self.
right.
Well, I mean, not be my own self, but just kind of live for no one but myself. But it's for some reason a really difficult thing. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, to want to please people, to want to give back to people. But, sometimes you can do so to a point where it can actually, backfire and
Yeah,
can really debilitate you.
right.
Um, I think for me also another trigger might be like just self-image, just not having lack of confidence with my own abilities and, my body image and, the way I look, the way, why am I overthinking everything? Why can't I just be like my other friends who can just go out and hang out and have a good time and forget about whatever that's bothering you on the inside? And why can't I sleep because I'm thinking all these things, and if I don't think, I will be able to sleep a little bit more and it'll be good for me. Um, so I have quite a lot of doubts about myself and the way I work and the way I function internally and externally. And that kind of I think that kind of contributes a lot to my insecurities.
Yeah,
I think especially mental health for me is a rough one.
yeah.
I've never personally been diagnosed with depression clinically, and I never really sought out to get any sort of any like professional clinical um diagnosis of
Yeah,
what my mentality is like, because it's almost like, and this may have a lot to do with, um my readiness to get help or seek therapy or whatever, but I just don't think it's going to change. Just because I'm diagnosed or not diagnosed with depression doesn't change, it's not going to change how I feel. And this is how I feel. So no other clinical, you know, uh, confirmation is going to change how I feel right now. So what's the point,
you are
you know?
blowing my mind right now. And you are blowing my mind because I had this conversation probably an hour before you and I got on the call, and that I too have never been diagnosed with anything. I have my own struggles when it comes to just like control and wanting to control, my schedule and just, time, that kind of thing. But I was talking to my friend who is, I have some friends obviously who do suffer from mental illness, and he has ADD and depression. But I literally said what you said, and that I don't know that I should get it diagnosed, because I don't know that it would change, like literally verbatim what you said. I won't even reiterate it because it was the same thing. So we're on the same, yeah, I'm right there with you. That was interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I think the thing about especially depression and anxiety on social media, it's so interesting because I'm not saying that some people like brag about it or anything. There's nothing to brag about
Yeah.
being a mentally ill person, but I feel like there is a small culture within social media where people kind of put the fact that they're mentally ill and they're kind of depressed as a sort of a brand almost. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean any disrespect to those people, but it's I think it's almost kind of it's kind of really difficult to for I'm assuming it could be really difficult for some people who are um for like myself who don't really have any proper diagnosis, and watching these people who are actually kind of, they have the proof that they're sick, and they're showing the proof, and they're showing pictures of them being facilitated, and actually you can tell that they're really sick, and as somebody like myself who doesn't have any um, clinical confirmation that I am kind of sick internally, it kind of makes me feel like I'm not supposed to feel this way, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's I'm not okay, so because I don't have these papers that confirm that I'm depressed, then and surely I'm not supposed to be feeling depressed or down or sad or just lonely all the time.
Right. No, I 100% agree. I think that is it. It's almost this idea of like, where does the mental illness end and where do you begin? Because there is a line, right? And that's the balance we as humans have to figure out in terms of like, are you going through a depressive season, or are you depressed? And to your point about like, even just like influencers, is it that you're posting this video that you have anxiety to reach a few people, in which case fantastic, we need voices out there? Or is the, I have anxiety part two a follow-up because your first anxiety video did very well, and so you're capitalizing on views and a trend? It's a tricky thing. And who are we to go around to each individual saying you're doing it for views, you're not doing it for views? Because we don't know. And but that's scary both ways, right? It's
Mm,
like, are you or aren't you? And I agree. I mean, I do think that there is it's so tricky. It's like, I agree. That's the beautiful thing about social media, is that people need to be talking about these things. And my ex-wife even had mental illness. It's something that's very close to me, but it's also why I've never claimed to have mental illness. I don't know. I've never gotten a diagnosis. I have my own issues, like everyone's got their own issues, but I feel bad claiming it when, to your point, you have people out there who actually
mm,
have these papers and this proof. And you know it's so tricky. It's so tricky, those lines and the intention, right? Because
yeah.
you bring up something that I often, as a human, just struggle with people in general. It goes down to the question of like, are people truly altruistic? Like, are we as humans inherently selfish? Like, do we genuinely do things out of the well-being of others, or do we genuinely do things, while they can be beneficial to others, serve some self purpose? Like, it's something I struggle with in terms of just humans in general. So yeah, that's a big question, big life question.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not gonna lie, I do everything for my own a little bit for my own
That's what
sake,
I'm saying. It's reward system. And that's what makes me even good at my job. I understand that the world operates off of incentives. They just do. You can hate it all you want. It's the truth. What are people going to get out of this? So yeah, it's interesting.
I think that's why, conversations like we're having right now, or just the nature of our jobs, is it's so beautiful, because
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing, that we can just be ourselves and just be honest, and that alone could be a help for some people who are watching, because sometimes what you need is not people telling you what to do, or you know um uh, I've got confirmation, I've got diagnosis, or this is my experience. I think what people sometimes need is just another human being just being honest and, be frank about their experience and what they're feeling on the inside,
Yeah.
or the outside, just whatever they're going through in life. I think just listening to that or watching that alone can help a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's why I try really hard not to uh be that person who's like, do this, do that, like we should do this,
Yeah.
in my work, because I don't think I'm ever in that position to tell people what to do.
Mhm.
But the only way I think I can be of help for other people is to just be myself and to
Yeah.
just be honest with myself.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm very happy with that I don't have to be somebody else to be this kind of person to uh, please others or be of help to
And I'm
others.
in the same boat because it's like I can, listen, how I am in general, I can easily probably come off very preachy to the wrong set of ears, which I get it. I understand how I come off and, just how I talk, but it even goes back to the conversation about posting what or whatever. While you might have the right intention, you always have to be mindful of perception. That is the name of the game.
It's all subjective as well, yeah.
It's all subjective. And so, even just like when I talk, of course, some people can watch my videos and they're gonna think I'm preachy, but I always try to any topic I tackle, I do try to make sure it's a topic that is close to my heart because I can talk about anything, and that's not the point. The point I want to make sure that I'm talking about things where I'm clearly having a personal POV to say this is not blanket statement for everybody. This is not a thing to everybody run with if you don't think this way. That I often present two sides to one argument in most of my videos because I'll be the first to say that there is no such thing as truth. Like truth is insanely subjective, based on our personal experience or based on our perception, and our perception is, based on our personal experiences. So, yeah, that's my thought on that one.
For sure. I always try to remind myself that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. And
Exactly.
nobody knows, because
Nope.
if people knew what the right answer is, then why would people suffer, and why would
Yeah,
people be going through hard times, and why is life not perfect? Because life
right,
by definition is not perfect. Nobody knows what the right way to live is. You just gotta
right.
experiment. You just gotta, experience, I guess, and go
It
through
would
it.
make sense for your book because only you're going to be reading it when you're 80 years old.
For sure. For
That's what
sure.
people, that's your book. Everybody's got their book. So don't let other people, dictate the chapters in your life. That's for sure.
Do you ever feel like, though, because you describe your life as a movie, as a book that you're writing with your own hands, but do you ever feel like you are kind of repeating the same kind of patterns? Because I'm just speaking from my personal
Yeah.
experience and my kind of little epiphany, if you will. The other day I was watching, like I watched anime and then went out for a night stroll. And then, when I'm going out on night strolls, I always listen to music, and that's kind of my meditation. And when I was walking down the street, I realized that, like, I had this weird sense of deja vu almost, where I swear this happened like multiple times throughout my life, like
Mhm.
many, many times.
Mhm.
And I'm just realizing this, and that I realize that I'm not I have kind of not I'm kind of I kind of haven't changed that much over
Mhm.
the years. And it was kind of almost a little bit depressing because, I think that I've grown a lot. I think I've changed a lot, but
Mhm.
it's almost like I'm back to square one, and I'm kind of almost the same person that I used to be as a kid or as a teenager, as whoever I was throughout my life. And that
Mhm.
that deja vu kind of hit me because
Mhm.
it's like, I thought I was progressing all this time, but maybe I'm not?
No, it's it.
Do you ever feel that?
So,
It's all good
uh,
if not.
no, no,
Maybe it's
no.
just
I do apologize for being so poetic when I speak. I'm thinking of this quote that this
poetic
kid
is
in
good. Poetic is
but I
good.
just like it's just like I don't know, it's my brain, but like I was thinking about this kid in college told me, and his mom told him, I don't know, take that with a grain of salt. Some kid in college said, he's like, my mom told me that when you're born nothing but a block of marble. And every interaction you have, every experience you have, good, bad, big, small, they're all just like chinks in this block of marble. And when you die, you died nothing short of a perfect statue. I think
Mm,
that goes back to even what I say about, things you really, this idea of truth being subjective, and even goes to comparing on social media. It's this idea of, it's like, just because you haven't changed in such obvious ways, say someone like me, where it's like or because I've changed so much and I also haven't, but just for sake of comparison, it's not to say you haven't changed a ton or a little bit. However the chinks in your marble are getting, attributed, like, you're going to be able to, going back to the movie and the book, like, you're going to be able to look back at that person that you are at the time that you're at it, you're that person, and appreciate it for what it is. And that, yeah, that's what
mm.
so it's like, I do feel that way. Sometimes it feels like I've changed so much and then not at all. But I think that's what's so beautiful about it is, the Brooke that I am is ever changing. And, the Sue that you are is ever changing, even if that's by a little bit, even if that's not at all, it's taking yourself at face value for where you're at, I think is important for anybody. And I think, talk about being hard on ourselves. I think we're so hard on ourselves, thinking like, oh, I used to be so outgoing and now I'm not. I have so much
Mm.
social anxiety. Or like, oh, why am I not there yet when all these other people are there? It's like, you know what? This is the version of Sue and Brooke I am today. And that is that, because
Gotta
everything is,
cherish that now while it
you,
lasts.
you cherish who you are today, because the person you are tomorrow can be
Mm,
completely different, whether it's in big ways or small ways. So yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of want to touch upon dating apps because you mentioned it briefly previously. So I've never been, first of all, I've never been on any social like dating apps
Yeah.
because I personally find it really bizarre. Like I don't, I find it really bizarre.
I don't
And
blame you.
yeah, and I know for sure that online dating has been around for a while, even though it wasn't, it took shape in different forms. Like, Tinder came around quite recently, but before Tinder, there were like online dating sites
Yeah.
on, PC or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the format that's changed. But there is definitely something particular about Tinder. And I don't know about how other platforms work, but especially Tinder, where it's all about that 5 second, uh, 5 second, what is it, impression. And, you kind of judge somebody within that 5 seconds and swipe, 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 swipe. And you kind of, it's just bizarre for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you but it's like I think people have mixed experiences because my
Mhm.
friend, for instance, she met her boyfriend through Tinder. And it
Mhm.
was bizarre at first, the fact that they were like, okay, so let's meet in real life. And then,
Right.
actually meeting in real life. And it's kind of creepy at first and you have a lot of doubts.
Right.
But, you get past that point and it becomes a beautiful thing. And they have a, great relationship together. So I think it can go both ways, and everything in between.
Mhm.
But still, for me, that's not enough to like take the plunge and actually get on the platform. Um, but yeah, what are your thoughts on it in general? Like Tinder
Well,
or like Bumble? I think there's another thing called Bumble.
yeah, so you have to keep in mind, I was married until 2019, so I'm fairly new to dating apps to myself, and probably like,
Mm,
I guess like you could say I'm a solid 2 years into it at this point. But it was completely new for me. Tinder came out when I was, in a committed relationship before I got married and divorced, obviously. Um, my experiences with dating apps has been mixed. I've met great people on dating apps, more great people than not great people. I'm a very picky person in general, not because it's not about people not being good enough for me. I need multifaceted people in so many different ways that I don't know. I need it. And so the people I have met up with has been fantastic. I think for me, it kind of goes back what I said earlier with dating apps. You think of something like an eHarmony or like Match.com, where you really have to build out this very extensive profile and
mm,
take the time to message someone. With this swiping, it really just it's gamification. It's turning something that is not a game into a game, and that's all it becomes. It just becomes a game of how many matches can you get? Let me see how many people I can swipe on in the next 5 minutes. And that's the other problem to it, is people are doing this in passing. People aren't being intentional when they're doing it.
Mm,
I try to do that. So when I'm on Bumble or Tinder, I try to be intentional when I'm spending those 5-10 minutes on Bumble or Tinder, to where that's my attention versus, oh, I have 5 minutes before my next meeting. Let me just like get some swipes in. Because then you really are turning it into a game. And so I think people have to be intentional in general, though. Again, also because I'm LGBTQ, because I'm also ethical non-monogamous, my pools are smaller than like a straight male who
right.
probably
Yeah.
has a ton of options. So it is probably the most optimal way for me to meet someone. And that's what I was saying. Like, I'm very picky in terms of like, I live a certain lifestyle, and, a lot of things need to kind of fall into place. So, as things need to fall into place, that pool gets tighter and tighter. And so I'm able to connect with people in an optimal way because of things like dating apps,
That's true.
because I'm niche.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So
that's why a lot of LGBT people do meet their lovers online, because that's really the options.
right. That's interesting because it's like it kind of almost narrows it down and kind of filters out the kind of more dodgy the
Yeah.
dodgier side of it. Like if you're like generally sexual, then it's like the pool is so big that,
Massive.
it's like it's a, it's a gamble. You could get a match and, it could be a creep or like I don't know, serial killer or whatever. But
And I've had friends who've had, weird experience on dating apps. So yeah, it's definitely tricky.
oh no.
Yeah.
So how do other platforms work? Like I know Tinder, like swiping is a big thing. So is
Yeah.
it like gamifying the whole like romance game, the whole like relationship game? Is it pretty much the same with all these apps?
Yeah, they're all pretty much swipe at this point. Tinder
Mm,
Tinder was the one who introduced it. What makes Bumble slightly different is Bumble, it's the same thing. It's a swiping thing, but especially for heterosexual couples, the girl has to message the guy first. So even if you get matched with a guy, the girl messages them first. It takes out the unwarranted, most times creepy messages from guys from like a Tinder, where it's like, okay, I matched you, and I've gotten this myself, where it's like, okay, the first thing you're telling me is something completely obscure, and
right.
some unwanted messages. So, to have the girls kind of be the first move kind of alleviates a little bit of that pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do they like this though, like so is it seems like a very gender specific app though. So if you're more like I don't know, maybe I'm just overcomplicating it, but if you're like, there are so many gender
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
you know,
No, yeah. No, the apps have developed with
uh,
times and making sure that everybody's
feels
represented.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. No,
I
they're
see, I
the apps
see.
are getting better at that for sure. And
Okay.
you can even, you know, yeah, they're getting better at that for sure.
Okay, interesting. It's
Yeah.
weird. Tinder advertises itself now in Korea at least as like a LinkedIn kind of thing. And like you see commercials as like of people like is a specific commercial that I see a lot in Korea is this fashion major girl gets a match with
Yeah.
her like idol fashion designer. And she's like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I got a match with my idol." And she like cuz they start talking about like college experience and how to get jobs afterwards and stuff like that. And it's just really bizarre how Tinder like is kind of changing its branding a little bit from just dating apps to like just a dating app to like this kind of social, connection app in general. And it's bizarre because it's
So
still like,
Bumble did that. Yeah, Bumble actually added. Bumble has a few features. They have Bumble, just the dating Bumble, but they also have Bumble Friends, where
okay.
like girls can meet other girls and guys can meet other guys. And they also have Bumble Biz for like business networking. Though, you crowd both of those spaces, you just get, it gets muddy. But they are trying to figure out ways to expand their app outside of just dating. And it's funny, you want to talk about a feature that Instagram, well, something I'm shocked Instagram has not done. Instagram totally has everything it takes to create a dating package. Like if I paid $15 a month for Instagram dating package, they have the data, they have the users, and they have the ability to like build that into the platform. I think it would be very successful for them if they do it
Mm.
right. Yeah,
Interesting.
because I meet a lot of I flirt with a lot on Instagram. That's another unofficial dating app.
I see. So like, the DMs and, utilizing
Oh,
that kind of side of it.
and again, I'm like, this is my first time even being single with an Instagram in general. So I'm like, oh, this is like another optimal way. You meet,
That is
girls from all
true.
over.
It's
It's true.
like
Oh yeah.
it could be more in depth than Tinder as well, because it's like, you got the whole profile of a person. You can, there's so much you can actually get to learn about somebody, just with photos and videos.
I've met friends and lovers on Instagram. Like my best friend, my roommate, he actually just got home, which reminds me, I do have to hop in like 5 minutes for
Yeah, of
dinner.
course, of course.
But I met him on Instagram. So yeah, like some of the closest people in my life I've met through Instagram. So they should like really build upon that relationship
They
aspect.
should add they should just add that package instead of that useless like
Shopping.
shopping app
Yeah, I
thing.
don't need to go to the mall on Instagram
Yeah, it's
to
weird. And the recommendations are always kind of a little bit shit for me, at
yeah,
least. It's not
I
optimized.
agree.
So, yeah, it's weird. But thank you, Brooke, for this conversation. This was really fun actually, like really insightful, and I feel like I got a little boost of confidence and a little boost of motivation to like continue writing my book.
Yeah.
Or
Ooh,
Brooke.
what's your book about?
Uh, for now, it's just, still trying to get out of this box room and, explore the bigger world out. But I think that's really kind of similar to all of us with it being, COVID, pandemic, and everything.
Yeah.
So it does actually kind of give me a little bit of relief that we're all kind of in the same boat at the moment, and that the whole world is struggling with the same thing. And that kind of brings me a lot of peace and a bit of, uh, a little bit of relief. And yeah, I'm just kind of trying to make more music and write more and be more true to myself, and, more self discovery and meeting more great people like you.
Yeah, no, the collective pause, if you will, is probably the best blessing that's come out of 2020. Just that
That's true.
we're all on pause. We're all on pause to do this much needed work for ourselves within ourselves. And so it's not easy. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for you. But I don't know you, so I know this holds no weight. But I am proud that you're pushing through, because it's not easy, and
Thank you.
especially that self motivation, especially when it comes to art and pushing through on the art. And so I'm excited for you. I think that's awesome. It's
Thank
really
you.
good. Yeah.
You're definitely welcome to come back anytime. I'd love to talk to you again. Uh, but thank you today for just coming and being an awesome person, Brooke.
Of course. Well, I'm excited to see the episode. Obviously, I'll give it
Of
a share.
course.
And yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it's gonna come around.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. Yeah, I hope we get to connect in the future. This was awesome.
Thank you. Bye, Brooke.
Bye.
Bye.